Hey there, Paul Mauro, Smart Financial. Welcome back. I'm going to talk about a topic today that's not so much fun. I will just tell you that I have a book coming out on smart financial longevity, and my first book, Smart Financial Grandparenting. We talk about, advice to give to young people that are getting jobs so that everybody can have a secure, long life and retire with money or achieve your longevity goals and have lots of money, and that's all great. But sometimes things change. I do want to say that this is a relatively recent topic. I'm going to actually revise one of my recommendations that I've made publicly, one of the recommendations I've made in my books, recommendations that have been very long-term traditional recommendations. And I'll tell you, it has to do with the people who want to live a relatively low-stress economic and employment life. The people who don't want to be inventors of the next widget, and they don't want to be entrepreneurs, and they don't want to be self-employed, and they want the safety and security of a long-term job with benefits, health, pension, retirement, and all that. And by the way, I will tell you that many of those people that take the employment track retire with millions of dollars and are very comfortable. The reason that I say that anybody can retire rich in my second book is that you can make a decision, a career decision, and you can make it, especially with the advice of your grandparents. I wrote a whole book on grandparenting, and one of the greatest things about dialoguing with your grandparents is that they have a big wealth of advice that they can give you about life and careers and family and many other things. But I do think that some of our grandparents had economic lives, careers, and labor jobs that are going to be different tomorrow, right? And so that's why I am revising one of my recommendations. And I'm going to say right now that the title of this video is going to be Civil Service. I don't think so. I do think that for many years, being a civil service employee had all of the earmarks of economic security and safety. And let me just explain to you what civil service is. Civil service really means working for the public, and that could be a fireman, a policeman, an administrator, whatever. If you work for the public in a government sector job, right? But it's not military. It's a private enterprise. You work for civil service administration. And you have certain reasons you take that job. And it's done by a grading system of merit. And it goes from like a GS1 all the way up to like a GS15. And as you work your way up, you make more money. This is not a get-rich scheme. These jobs, people don't take these jobs to get rich. They take them to finish rich. It's very much like being a teacher or an educator. So when you sign on the dotted line, when you take the civil service exam and you make that life commitment, you know very well you're in a situation where the pension system says 30 years. It says to get your maximum benefit is 30 years, right? Okay, minimum 50 years old, 30. So you got to either start at 20, or if you start at 30, it's 30 years to get your full pension. But that's like the brass ring they're all working for. Now, I want to just quote a few things about what's happened in civil service that have made me change my mind about that as a career choice. It is a merit-based job. It is graded based on merit, and you move forward. You are supposed to be protected from political retaliation by the Office of Personnel and Management. Okay, so it's kind of like, if you're in a union and the union protects you and stands up for you, and I'm a very pro-union guy for people that make that decision. I've seen lots of electricians and plumbers and sheetrockers and carpenters. In my practice of 50 years, I've seen many of these folks walk in with a check for $1.5 million. They never put a dime into their union plan. They just went to work. They enjoyed their life. They had a great time. But instead of having 1,000 sheet metal workers walk into a guy's office and ask for a raise, they got a business manager. He represented them. They negotiated a pension and welfare. The union is a great thing. By way of sort of disclosure, my dad was a union guy in addition to being a Navy vet, and he basically got a lot of being a union member. So when people join this, whether it's a postal worker or a firefighter or police, they expect to get out of their lives a pension, health, a TSP, a thrift savings plan, kind of like a 401k, and they can do a lot of work. However, it's a 9-to-5 job. Basically, again, they're not an entrepreneur. They're getting in there. The lowest paid person at GS1 is like $30,000 a year. These are not high paid jobs. You can work your way up to a significant income and you can retire. The maximum, or I should say the average retiree is $86,674. That is squarely the number, by the way, of what the middle class family makes, according to the recent survey by, I have to quote their name properly, the recent survey by Consumer Finances Research and Analysis of the Federal Reserve. Okay, so the government did a survey and said, what's the average income of a middle class family in America? 86,000. So this issue of undermining the security of civil service, what's going on right now is they're getting a massive amount of job stress, encouragement to leave their jobs early. Now, the good news is less than 1% of the 2.5 million civil service employees have taken this early offer. By taking this early offer, they're getting out of the system that they signed up for 20 years ago, maybe 10 years early, and not going to get their full pensions. This is really sad. This is like changing the ball game when it's too late for people to move. They're already halfway across the Atlantic. A lot of these people started at 30 years old. They're 50. They're not exactly going to do another whole career life somewhere. I'm changing my mind because there's 2.5 million civil service employees. Here's the numbers if you want to write them down. Our U.S. government pays them about $271 billion a year in salaries, right? But again, it's $86,000 salaries. These are not like mega money earners, right? When they retire, a civil service employee who does his time and goes all the way to term, 30 years, can get about 80% of his income, maybe 60 grand a year of retirement, okay? So that's a good thing. So the U.S. government, if they have all these civil service employees, they're on the hook for maybe $200,000 of pension payments. $216 billion with a B, like a billy goat, okay? $1 billion of payments. However, by encouraging them all to leave early, the U.S. government's going to save about $100 billion of what they have to pay these people in pensions. This is very, very corporate behavior, by the way. In my last 50 years of practice, I've lived through this with clients who've had their pensions stopped halfway through their work life, pensions frozen. I'm sure you've heard about this. Pensions eliminated, replaced by 401ks. This type of behavior is corporate behavior. It's not normally civil service behavior. This is very, very unusual. It's a little bit sad. I feel kind of bad for these folks that are in there. Again, there's 2.5 million people working in all these different capacities. And they work hard, they do their job. The expectation is they did not sign up for a lot of drama. They signed up to do a 9-to-5 job, collect their paychecks, play with their kids on the weekends, and not have to make important financial decisions, because this is a cradle-to-grave kind of environment where, again, they get health care, they retire, they get health care for life, they have a pension system, right? They've got a union that represents them, theoretically. And so I think the entire civil service career is not what I would keep on my list of the 6 ways that you can get rich by just working. I'm actually changing my sort of perspective on this now. It might change in the future. I would just tell you, of the top careers that you can go into and have a no stress, just work, put money into your FERS program, the Federal Employee Retirement System. It's called FERS. You could put money in, participate in the TSP, and get to your $2 million number at age 65 or 70, low stress, for those people that want that kind of life. But I do think every once in a while, when the wind changes, you have to change your sails. And that's what I'm doing here. The Smart Financial, part of our job, by the way, is to recommend to you that when you make recommendations in the financial industry, you better be ready to eat your words and change your mind as circumstances changes. We're ripping up trusts that we did 20 years ago. We're changing the perspective of our investments because of changes that are become available. And this is the reason why we think everybody out there, including and especially now, these civil service employees, you need to meet with and take the advice of a financial person that's on your team to help you make things turn out right. You can actually reach out to us through our website and all that. I'll encourage you to hit that subscribe button, follow us for the upcoming videos. We're going to have more news on this topic and others. Follow us along. By all means, reach out to us if you want to put in contact with one of the smart financial advisors that are in our network. And by the way, we're running a little special promotion because they just finished the manuscript for the second book is being edited. It's about to come out. So for the next 25 people that subscribe to our channel or like us on Facebook and get a hold of us. We will be happy to download to you a free copy of Smart Financial Grandparenting. If you're young, give it to your grandparents. And if you'd like, you can wait and select either book 2, which is Smart Financial Longevity, or the third one, which is in the process now, Smart Financial Wealth Building, right? For the 3 generations of boomers, X-Geners, and millennials. So I'm Paul Mauro, and I'll see you again next time on Smart Financial.